Kenny G.
Look at all this hair.
All that her. All that her.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Real Talk with Casey and JoJo. What's up, Casey?
What's up, JoJo?
We are going
I like
to.
your hair.
Thank you. It's super puffy. It's this is perfect.
It's the in-between.
It's in the in-between. We're talking about the in-betweens today, guys. And if you don't know what that means, like, I got out of the shower, right? And I haven't really done my hair. So this is like the in-between stage of between,
done and not done.
Done and not done, right? The manifestation is done and this is the in-between. So that's what we're going to talk about is the in-betweens. The in-betweens of life, the in-betweens of a manifestation, right? It starts with an idea, and then the idea evolves into a manifestation, but there's a lot of in-betweens. So kind of like a metaphor of we're going on a trip. We do this all the time. We're driving, and we have a destination. We put it on the map, and then there's all these in-betweens of stopping at a gas station, stopping at Starbucks, watching a certain movie, listening to a certain song, playing a certain game, right? And that's what makes the journey worthwhile. That's what makes the getting to the destination, so enjoyable, because you are creating memories in between and you are hopefully enjoying those memories. So right? That's a good metaphor of the in-betweens.
Would you say that the process is the same thing as the in-betweens?
Yes, I just like the in-betweens.
Okay, better. Well, I'm going to go with the process for my 2 cents.
Okay.
Because I think the process, for me, I gravitate and I identify more with the process.
I get it. It's the same thing, but...
Yeah, so the process. Because I'm a big... In fact, we talked about this... last night.
Last night? Yeah.
The process, right? Like, think about when you plan a trip, using your metaphor, you do all these things and you plan all, how many miles, this, that, and the other, for driving, even if you're flying, it doesn't matter. You have the whole trip planned out.
Pretty much.
Right. And I think most of us find ourselves like looking towards the destination. What's next? What's next? What's next? Always focused on the future of what's next.
The outcome.
Right. And that is a mindset of the outcome. It's an outcome mindset. It's a result oriented mindset. And there's nothing wrong with that. But when we're constantly in that mindset and we can't shift back to the in-between mindset, to the process,
then we're always chasing something and never really being fulfilled.
Correct. So it's like, you think about last trip you went on, you planned it out. You probably are in the airport or in your car waiting, can't wait until I get to the hotel so I can relax, right? Or whatever.
Your mind is ahead of you.
Right. Whatever activity you have planned next. And then you get to that activity and you're then probably thinking about the next activity, right?
Which leaves you away from the now.
Exactly. So it's like I think most of us were taught, I mean, it's straight up, we're taught that to have that mindset, right? It's to chase something, to be focused on the results. And what we're talking about is being focused on the process, or the in-betweens, as you put it. So, as another example, and I think about work and like an employment situation, or like trying to chase a goal more so with the process than the in-betweens, as far as on a trip, but same thing. So like if I'm in the car, right, and my 4-year-old daughter's losing her shit in the back seat, I'm probably frustrated. I probably can't wait to get to the next stop,
Right.
But like you said, when 10 years from now, 15 years from now, when she's 4 years old, think of the difference in that experience if you had a in-between mindset, right? If you had a process-oriented mindset. Of course, nobody's going to enjoy their child screaming, but when you're focused on the results, you tend to get more frustrated,
right?
You tend to,
because you're not in the flow,
think that this isn't happening fast enough, right? You tend to get emotional. You tend to get all these things that take you away from the end-all be-all goal, which is to simply, live in the now, right?
What's a good example? A movie example? Click.
Yes.
How he
100%.
fast forwards things and then he misses out on what's happening, and then all the frustration until he finally realizes that he should have been there because he missed out on his children growing up, and he missed out on the yelling and the screaming. It was like perfect. Like I kept envisioning that as you were talking. I'm like, it's just like click.
Yeah, and if you haven't seen that movie, check it out, because it's a very
With Adam Sandler.
it's a great example of what we're talking about. And it's like, you think about when you live that way, and you probably have grandparents, you probably have, someone older that you can have this conversation with. And I mean, that essentially is where regrets come from, right?
Right.
Yeah, so it's like essentially like that, that's where regrets come from. They come from not living in the now, always focusing on the future, getting to the future, and then realizing that you missed all the in-betweens, thereby resentment, right? And I think, yeah, like you say, click is a beautiful, beautiful example of that happening. I mean, the dude's dying on his deathbed before he realizes his whole life's passed him by, right?
So what would you say to somebody who, for example, let me just give a random example. Father has to go pick up daughter, doesn't have phone with him, and he ends up waiting for a really long time, right? So his patience is probably running low.
That's an assumption.
Maybe, right? Like, let's just say he doesn't have his phone on him. He can't say, hey, I'm here outside waiting for you, and like 20 minutes pass by. What would be the in-betweens there that person can enjoy or can savor or can, be grateful about?
Well, I mean, if you have, yes, if I'm in a result-oriented mindset and I'm in that situation, I'm counting every minute, because every minute somehow is a missed opportunity for the thing that I need to do and I needed to get back home to do, right? So every minute stretches out. I could imagine in your head going, man, if she's not here in 5 minutes, I'm leaving. She could just figure it out. Or damn, I could probably go back home and get my phone and come back before she actually comes out. Like all those thoughts. So it's all this future, what if, what if, what if, what if. You're not living in the in-between in that situation. Right?
Okay.
Now, if you're process oriented, if you're living in the in-between, you view this as an opportunity, right?
Correct.
This is an opportunity that I could take advantage of, right? I could meditate. If I had a poor night's sleep, I could take a nap, right? Now, I imagine in this situation that it's stormy outside, right? Like it could rain, there's a breeze, the car's off, the windows are down. Perfect opportunity to just sit back and relax. And when she gets here, she gets here.
Listen to some music.
Right. And so that's an in-between way to handle it. Yes.
Correct.
Now let's take it a step further. What if you are a process-oriented person, right? Said child skips down the driveway, excited to tell you about what happened on her, it's not a play date because she's 15, but you know what I'm saying? Like on her friend hangout excursion.
Okay.
I'm frustrated because I've been counting all those 20 minutes, right? Thinking about all the things that I could have done and how she is not observing or respecting my time, right?
Correct.
And that could all be true, but I'm focused on that. She gets in the car. First thing I do, what happened? I've been here for 20 minutes. Where the fuck have you been? How's she going to respond to that? Right? Maybe she gets an attitude because maybe she's disappointed. And I take that, I read that behavior as her being flippant or her not being respectful of me. And you can see how this just compounds.
Right.
Right. So, beautiful example of living in the in-betweens versus living in the result-oriented mindset, and then how that could cascade into so many different things. And so what you've missed is you've missed the opportunity of seeing your daughter, walk down the driveway at 15. There's not too many times that's going to happen.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
So what would be the in-between of in the process?
You've missed. Yes. Well, I think this is what we miss by not living in the in-between. Right. Like, she's excited to talk to me. She's excited to share with me what happened. If I'm not living in the in-between, I don't experience that, right? Those are the bonding situations. Those are the roots. Those are the things that fill the gaps that don't lead to resentment when you're 60 years old and you're looking at your daughter who's got her daughter who is giving her the time and energy that she needs and isn't responding to the way you did. And you're playing this all out in your ego as a parent going, oh my God, what have I done?
Right.
Right. And I think, I love my parents, but I think I see that a lot in them, and they're a reminder, because I do think that they um, were very result oriented and lived that way. Just looking at it, and there's nothing wrong with that, but
That's a
I can see
generational
that
thing too.
behavior. Yeah, I can see that behavior in them for sure.
So I'm curious.
Man, I talked a lot. My bad.
I'm curious in this scene where the dad picks up the daughter, like, which way did it go?
So this is how I would imagine it went. Is at first it's like, all right, cool, it's hot, it's hot out here, man, like whatever, because he's of the higher consciousness, right? Like he's not a hothead, he's not a jerk, he's not going to shift right into the negativity and count every minute and blow up on her when she gets to the car. He doesn't roll like that. Like he's a little elevated, right?
Okay.
So but at first he's like counting, yeah, he is looking at, all right, it's 5:05. He's kind of contemplating, what are my opportunities? Like, what should I do? Still in a result-oriented mindset, but not frustrated, right?
Gotcha.
So, keeps looking over his shoulder. All right, whatever. 10 minutes go by, it gets a little darker. The breeze picks up, the back windows are up, seat reclines, turns the car on, puts the radio on, opens the back windows so we can get more air circulation. And here's the raindrops, and just sits back for 10 minutes and shuts his eyes and tries to have no thought, meditate, whatever, for the next 10 minutes. Daughter knocks on the window, and hey, we're good to go. That's the way I would envision it.
And so he was in a what kind of state of mind or mood, or how did it go as far as when she got in the car?
Oh, it was cool. It was like, damn. Jokingly, because that's my personality, I would be like, damn, where you been? Like, I've been here since 5. But it was done in a sarcastic, like joking way, not in a
reprimanding way.
Correct, right? And so she got in the car, and then she actually felt bad. I didn't have to say anything, so it was cool to see that happen, because I allowed her, like, and this is important, parents, if you as your kids turn into teenagers,
yes.
Like sometimes we have to allow our kids to say I'm sorry, or to show repentance, and it not be on our timeline, right?
Yes.
Like sometimes that shit just has to bloom.
Yes.
And we have to allow it to happen. But that's
because you can't control that. That's something you don't want to control. That's kind of like controlling, making somebody love you. You can't make somebody love you
or respect you.
Right. That happens on its own. So
right.
The same goes with apologizing, because they have to, get past the anger, get past the sadness, get past the reflecting of, oh, I actually did fuck up, and then actually get to the point of their ego not letting them apologize, and then getting to the point of, okay, I apologize, and then it's like, okay, it's fine.
And it's interesting too, because like we talk about respect, and there's an in between respect, and there's a result oriented respect, right? Now, had I reacted with a result oriented mindset and gotten angry and demanded respect from her, I have no respect, right?
Right.
I have zero. Because
it's coming from a place of lack. I don't have it, therefore you need to give it to me.
You can't demand respect. I mean, you can, and you can fool yourself into believing that someone's respecting you, but by
it's a fake respect,
succumbing to you or bowing to you, but that's not respect.
Right.
So, they say respect has to be earned. And I think, again, this is a beautiful example, because if I allow myself to stay in the in-between, right, and then I allow her to comprehend what's happened, because who knows what she's thinking, right? She sees my car there. Oh my God. Like at this point, I think she had called her mom, if we're making this story up, and told her mom, and her mom was on the way to pick her up. So she's like created this avalanche of events based on her own forward thinking, right? So contemplate this. She's got her own forward thinking problems, her own result oriented thinking problems, because all these alarm bells have sounded when her dad's been sitting there since 5 o'clock, the time that they agreed upon. So who knows how fearful she is, or scared that I'm going to come down to the car and then he's going to bite my head off or be pissy, or we're going to get into a fight and it's going to turn into some shit, or he's going to make me feel guilty.
So she's already walking on eggshells, because she doesn't want to get called on for not coming down at 5 o'clock.
Yeah. So what happens if I also have a result-oriented mindset? I am reinforcing her result-oriented mindset, because she had a reason to be scared, therefore reinforcing that she needs to think and dodge and weave and do all these things emotionally to prevent there being problems. Now, because
it shows forgiveness too.
Yeah, in this fake example, because I was able to handle it with a in between mindset, she felt relief, right?
Yes.
In other words,
which
like,
then made her open up.
yes, and that is something, you know, we all have mirror neurons. We all mirror each other. We're all mirrors of each other. If I want my daughter to have a healthy, strong marriage or really relationship with any kind of man, I have to mirror to her the
What that looks
correct
like.
behavior. Right. And again, I hope I would be able to do this in a real life situation on a consistent basis, because that's what it's all about. But you know, this runs deep. Like, this isn't just surface, like my area. This affects everything. It could cascade like into a whole path of just shit and a horrible evening and all this stuff, all because we were looking forward.
This is where the in-betweens is also where events can catapult into trauma, like inner child trauma that you are still dealing with years and years later. So for example, let's say 100%. That, you know, you just have trust issues. And that comes from when you were young and you trusted your parents, and, you know, then you felt a reason why you couldn't trust them. And then next thing you know, you don't trust anybody. So that can go very deep, and usually our problems do come from or stem from our parents when we were younger.
Bro, you know, one of the biggest lessons I've learned as a parent, just since our kids are 15 and 17 at this point, is that, like,
man,
you don't, like, as when you were a kid and you were growing up, like, things happen to you that your parents may have never even noticed, but they were a huge deal to you. And it could be, so you, in other words, it's like something happens that you take and is one of those, like what's the movie with the little people and they drop the balls and the memories?
Inside Out.
Like the Inside Out ball
is
memory, created, right? Yeah. Like, it's a core memory. I think is what they call it, right? Yeah. And your parents have no fucking idea what you're talking about, because of course they're living in their own world, dealing with their own shit, just like you are.
Right.
So as my point is
you
that
never know what core memory
yes,
is.
my point is as parents, like, sometimes the things that we do, like, impact them way more than we think or could ever comprehend. So I say that to say this, it's like when we talk to our kids, you know, we sometimes have these conversations and it's like, what are your memories? Like, what do you remember when you were 8 years old? And we're like, oh, that's like, to me, that's not like, that wasn't a core memory for me, but it was for her, him.
Yeah.
So it's like, you know, we I think we overlook that, but that's such a huge reason why we have to live in the in-between, right? With a process-oriented
falling in love with the in-between, falling in love with the process.
Right. Because it does. I mean, I think that impact, like you said, to your point, could be felt tens of 20 to 30 years later, and all because of some stupid shit.
Yeah, you never know. You never know how anything can go. So every single chance, like every single moment is a chance, I should say, to decide what way you want something to go. I remember having, I don't know how this turned into a conversation about kids, but okay.
Because of the story.
Yeah. So I remember having a kind of like a fallout. So she, my daughter had written something and she wanted to share it. And I don't know what happened, or I wasn't listening or something. And she got upset and she kind of like balled it up and wanted to just be upset. And so we kind of played a game of let's rewind. Do you really want to be upset? Is this how you want things to go? Like, does this feel good?
Right.
And she's like, no. I said, okay, let's rewind. I'm sorry. Let's rewind and let's start over. Let's do this again as if, and I uncrumbled, you know, the paper and I said, okay, let's rewind. And so we acted on again. And I was like, okay, tell me, I'm listening, blah, blah, blah. And then she shared. And then it was an opportunity right there to flip the script and change the memory that could have gone in the opposite direction, and that path would have led to just more resentment, but we were able to switch it and we were able to go in a positive direction. And it's, even when something has happened, even when the milk has already fallen, you still get a chance to kind of rewind and go, okay, I'm aware that I was acting out of, you know, result oriented mind frame. So I'm going to back up and really sit here in the in between. I'm going to sit here in the in between and really savor it and really enjoy it. And really, honestly, the reason why we are doing this podcast about the in between, it really started from a conversation that we had a couple days ago when I was in the car, and I just want to share, like, there's these 3 different versions of my author copies for the book Summer Love coming up June 21st. This is the launch date. I know, a little commercial.
Hashtag plug.
Hashtag, yeah, come RSVP, hashtag that. But the point is that I was sharing how it's not about the manifestation. Like, my first book was Spring Manifestation, right? And I learned a lot about manifestation by writing this book about manifestation, right? So I really started to learn that it was all about the in between the manifestation. It was all the chapters in between the manifestation that made the book what it was, right? And so I was telling Keith, I'm like, look, the first book came in with all these errors, and I'm actually sitting there going, savoring the errors. Like, oh, this was my first book when it was messed up. And that's totally okay, because this is the in between. This is the process that I'm enjoying, the editing, the looking at, the fixing it, the going back, right? Then came my second book, and I'm like, oh, there's still more problems in it. So let me fix this. I saw something else I needed to fix. So let me fix that. And then all of that was the in between. And then I just got this one today, and I'm like, oh, it's ready, you know? And so how can I feel that relief, that oh, it's ready, if I didn't have the obstacles of the ones that weren't ready first? You know what I mean? And then also the fact that, like, when you start a blank sheet of paper with an idea, and then that translates into words, and the words translate into chapters, and then this manuscript turns out, you know, I give it to my editor, and then the editor comes back, and I'm reading it now with different words put in the right, you know, place. The grammar is all different, you know, like way better. And it's like, look, I hand you my words and you bring me back magic. And now I get to read it again. And then I get to listen to the playlist that goes with it. And I'm like enjoying all the in-betweens of this launch of the book. Like, by the time we launch it, like, that's great and all, but there's still so much more. Like, there's people that are giving me reviews and listen, you know, I'm getting to listen to how they feel about it. And all those little things are the in-betweens.
Right. And you're not mentioning all the stress of it too. I mean, because it is stressful, right? Like, you have a deadline and you have to get it done by this date, and you're not focusing on those things.
No, I'm focusing on just the process.
Right. Yeah. That's a beautiful example.
So that's what made me think about doing this, because I'm like, if we don't fall in love with the process, if we don't fall in love with the ups and the downs, what are we really falling in love with? The next thing that might come, that never is going to come, that doesn't really satisfy you. So you're always chasing something that's never really there, instead of being in the now, instead of being joyful now.
Yeah. And too, like, for me, you know, because I'm very much was very much a past future result oriented thinker, just always thinking about the next thing or the way to get to the next thing, right? It's like, it's hard to break from that, you know. And you may be like, well, that's great, no, I hear you and I get what you're saying, but you know, what tool can I have to kind of do this? And one of the things that helped me is that you know, if you really break it down, you know, silly, as cliche as it sounds, you know, every moment is a choice. You make a choice every single moment. And when you start to slow down the moments, you can shift a choice and really focus on, is this choice taking me in the path of the person that I want to be? So you're still getting the future thought, right? Like, I'm still getting okay, I get to think about the future because I'm just programmed to do that. So I still get that drip, but I also slow down enough to be able to make a decision in a split second of, yes, this is who I want to be,
and be able to create who you want to be, right? Because it's in the now is where you get to create. That is a creating energy,
right? And if you kind of, when I adopted that practice, it really gave me a higher level of consciousness of being able to understand the impact of those split second decisions. In other words, it made me aware of the awareness. So it's kind of like you're looking above and down on yourself going, okay, if this is a game and I go this route, where's this going to take me? So I still got to like play that game, which I enjoy.
It's like you're playing Fortnite.
Right. It's like I'm thinking, I'm trying to solve a puzzle, which is the purpose of the forward thinking. But at the same time, when you get caught up in that, you're not in the now. Right. So, also if I make this decision, is this where I want to be? Okay, this is where I need to go. And it also makes it easier to get to your long-term goals, right? Because because you're constantly making the decision that is for the betterment of you. And you're going to fail. Of course, you're not always going to make the right decision, but it's a lot easier to make one decision than to make 10,000 decisions, and knowing that you're having to make 10,000
decisions. Because it's very overwhelming.
Yes.
And so it's that whole idea of, like if I was to say, man, I'm going to write a book and think about all the process that it takes to write a book, I'd be so overwhelmed. I wouldn't be able to start. Yeah, I wouldn't be able to start. But if I just got the idea of the title and I wrote it down, and then I got the idea of the chapters and I wrote it down, and then I started just writing one chapter at a time, and here I go, and then it ends up what it ends up. Then I have to go, okay, what's my next step? Okay, editor. Okay, what's my next step? Format. Okay, what's the next step? And if I still look at what's my next step and not all of it at once, the overwhelmingness goes away.
Right. And it teaches you in a very sneaky way to be positive, because you're never going to go, oh yeah, I want to take the shitty path today. I want to experience a shitty day. You're not going to do that. You're going to go, no, I want it to be this way. Unless you're self-sabotaging. And I know I'm guilty of that.
Yeah. But that's why setting the intentions is so important. But I just, I thought it was really important just to talk about the in-betweens, because we're always talking about the manifestation. How did you manifest this? Well, let me tell you all the in-betweens that it took to get here, because that's what it's all about. It's all about the in-betweens. It's like, think about it. Read in between the lines. That's where the juicy stuff is, So just don't forget about the in-betweens in your life. Try to be in the present moment.
And use your intuition. That's a great exercise when you stay in the now intuitively. You can kind of be guided to do things in terms of making those choices, or knowing that, if you're kind of in the middle on a choice, it strengthens and it allows you to, again, pick up the pace. Yeah. And make the choice more effortlessly, as you kind of become more aware, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. Like more of a shortcut versus the long way that we basically, because we're trying to control the situation or the outcome, we end up going the long way versus if you were just to listen to your intuition, it's like straight up shortcut.
Thank you. Here's the door. And again, I don't know what you guys believe, but I believe that there's a oneness, right? There's an infinite oneness that's infinitely intelligent, omniscient, and little old me, little old Virgo thinks he knows better than that. Nah, man. No. So, if I'm
sitting surrender and rely on the God within you, man.
If I'm sitting here trying to plan my moves, thinking I know what's going to happen and I'm smart enough to, and I'm totally ignoring the intuitive infinite universe, I don't know, man. So I've learned you pick up on that.
And that's how you get to your goals, by the way. That is how you end up manifesting, is just, are you in that in-between moment and feeling gratitude and feeling joyous? Because that is how you get to the shortcuts of where you want to go. Simple as that. So I think we're out. Ready?
Yeah, man. I like to keep going, but yeah, let's get it.
Peace.